Hello and welcome once again to an action-packed, exciting series of simple groundwork and diorama techniques with me, your host and instructor, Bill Grigg. We are now into the Model Builders series in these video shoots. So what we're doing now is we're actually constructing things rather than me showing you how to paint and how to enhance and all this other stuff. Well, I will continue to do that, but in the meantime, I think it's about time to us actually take all the techniques that I've shown you and start to build a model. So I don't know if we'll get to it in this segment because actually, folks, I'll be perfectly honest with my audience, right? We had a technical glitch on our last shoot. So we are shooting this show here again. So if things get a little wiggy and you start to say, well, how does this continuity go together? That's the problem here, folks. We had a bad tape, and so we're forced to shoot it again. And as usual, my cameraman standing behind me is the infamous and world-renowned clam bake Cape Cod Dave.
Hola!
Hola, David. Hola, hola. And I understand, Dave, that we have had a question from somebody, one of our viewers.
Yes, what happened, they got a phone call and he's interested in how he can fill in seams. For example, on the Bell X1,
Yeah.
which is the Chuck Yeager one that's just been re-released.
Yeah.
It basically it's two pieces that fit in, fit either
So he's
side.
worried about that top seam that's going down the
There's a
fuselage.
seam going all the way down the entire unit, okay? How do you cover that up?
Okay, we will get to that, folks. We will get to that later on when I do that C-47. And then there was another guy, something about glue.
Yeah. What's the story with tube glue?
With the orange tube glue, the
orange
standard
tube, yes.
test is orange tube glue?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let us address that fact right now. And I happen to have the evil demon right here. Folks, this is evil glue. I don't care what anybody says, it's evil glue. This is old school, and you really are better off with our two little black friends here. This is really honestly good glue. It's very liquid, it's very controllable. Now you can see on one of the glues, this is the standard glue that came. It came with a stainless steel needle applicator. But what I did is I took one of the tops off of a instant glue and I put it on top of here. Now this is for more volume of flow. If I was to do, let's say, the wing area, I would use this as opposed to this for the mere fact of I've got such a wider area to cover. This is more for things like if I'm going to now take and put this flap in, this would give me a lot of control down this side. But that is not the question we're getting. We're getting the question about this, about the orange glue right here. Now, really, it's just old school. There's nothing wrong with this glue. The problem with this glue is you cannot control the flow of this glue out of this nozzle tip for the fact of you must squeeze the tube to get the glue out. Here you get a little drop, capillary action goes on top, you pull it, and that pulls the glue from it, but that is not the case with the orange. So one thing is lack of control. Now, to take care of lack of control, they do sell a glue tip, and Dave, you can get right in tight on that section right there, and you tell me when you got that.
Okay.
You see it? You see the tips? Now, these tips slide on top of this, and it does give you a lot more control. But again, this glue is good in certain applications. Now, let's say we're going to take this glue, and we need something like, we'll do like this. I'll do like this. We're going to take, I can't even pick it up. This is real good. I'm going to take this here and I'm going to attach it to, let's say, a vehicle. Well, if I was to use the thin glue, what would happen is I would stand and I would have to kind of hold this in place. Make sure it's good and straight, hold it in place. The beauty of this is it's more like a little glob of like Vaseline. And to put this on here, then take the piece, what you would do is you'd touch a few times, you'd get it, and it allows you a lot of working time to move this around, get right up over the top of it, look straight down, make sure it's good straight up and down. It'd be good for things like gun mounts on vehicles, or wing cannon in the wing root of an aircraft, or it's good for landing gear. There are definite uses to the old standby orange tube. But really, really, truly, students, listen, it's old school, and why use something that you have not a lot of control with? Also, you put out a lot of volume with this glue, and let's say you do take these two wings and you squeeze them together. Well, you get that squirt of glue that comes out because you've got so much volume from the tube. Now listen, that's actually a bad thing, but if it does happen to you, the best advice I can give you is, this is human nature. We squeeze out the glue, we go, oh, it's a mess, and we try to clean it up. Bad, bad, bad. Do not do that. If you get that squeeze of glue out of here and you are using the old tube, let that glue dry completely, then clean it up. If you take it while it's wet and you try to clean it up, all you're doing is you're pushing that mess all over the place. And we've all done this. If you're a model maker, you've done this many, many times. So let's eliminate that. And like I say, there's really nothing wrong with this glue here. And if you use the tips along with it, you'll get better control. But truly, in the long run, you should really be going to our old standard pals right here, the liquid glue. It's better, and it dries awfully, awfully fast. So that is the deal there. Now, last time you were with me, let me get these out of the way. The last time that you were with me, we put some facial tissue on top of a tarpaulin. We used facial tissue as a tarpaulin. Now, I've got the base shape here. It's completely dry. We saw what we did. Now, this is the actual one that I did, but because of the technical glitch, I was forced to do another one. But let's do it again. I'm saying let's do it again, David. Nobody's even seen me do it. So I'm going to do this again for you folks, and then I'm going to go to this and explain this a little bit better because of the wet technique that I used on this. So let's start right here, and let's go with this right here. Once again, I get out my non-absorbent surface, which I tell you all the time, I use a tremendous amount of stickers. Wax paper works as well as this does. A mirror will work as well. But I like this, and wax paper, of course, is cheap. When you get done, you throw it away. So we do this. Now, my standard stir your paint, stir your paint. This stuff here, we can just take and shake. It's an acrylic. Now, we're using an acrylic to base this. And the reason that we're using an acrylic to base this is to prevent when I go on top of this with my solvent-based paints, i.e. my low odor thinners and my enamel paints, that I do not get a burn through down through my green color here down to a white base, which would show through. On stuff like this, burn through is not bad. But boy, when you get on an aircraft, and let's say I'm out here and I'm working this wing because this aircraft has obviously been shot down. You can see it's all torn to pieces and shot up. If I was to get burned through here on this piece, I've got a real problem now. It's do you repair the panel? Do you repair the whole wing? Do you have to repair the whole aircraft? So you want to avoid burn through, and the way you avoid, boy, I'm having trouble. The way you avoid burn through is to use an acrylic base to barrier against the solvent-based paints. And let's do that right now. Like I said, you can take this stuff and shake this. This is just standard, folks, standard craft paint. We all know, we've all seen this if we're, any crafters or model makers or things like that. It's thick. So I'm giving it a good shake. And the reason I'm not stirring this is, first of all, it's almost impossible to get in there and give it a good stir.
Can I see that again?
Yep.
Yeah, show me that again.
Yep, right there. You can see how that would be difficult to get in and get a good stir.
Got it.
And there's no need. This is, I don't want to say inferior paint, but this is not the best paint in the world to use. That's why it makes such a good barrier, because it skins so well. When this stuff dries, it actually creates a skin. As a matter of fact, because I use a non-absorbent surface I use in sticker paper, if this was to dry, once I get this dry, I could actually peel it up off the sticker paper and actually work it a little bit. It's a good barrier paint. So we come down to our palette, Dave. And we put out a little bit of paint. Now I'm using olive green. This is an olive green paint because obviously I want my tarp to be olive green. You could use brown. There's other colors. You go out and look at tarps. Obviously, if you got to determine the time period of the tarp as well, because you wouldn't want one of these big blue tarps, these big nylon blue tarps in a World War II setting or a 1940s or 50s railroad setting. They didn't have those then. So that's the deal on that. And now let us do some painting. Let your instructor see what he's doing. Choose an appropriate brush. I'll show him the brush head too, Dave. Might as well. We'll get that brush head right up against here. You can tell me when you got that. Got it? That's good. Okay, now we'll follow this down to our palette and pick up some paint. And you can see I'm just picking up a glob of paint, and I'm going to bring it over to my piece, and I'm going to start to paint the piece. And again, it's simple painting, folks. It's not hard. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is you have achieved this shape of the tarp by taking your facial tissue, putting it on top of your armature, wetting it, and pushing it into place with your fingers. Now, because it is an acrylic, it is a water-based paint, when we go on top of this, if we work in one spot way too long, we are going to actually regenerate the moisture, and it may change the shape of what you have already pre-put in there. That's not a bad thing, but there are some times when I get such a good shape that I don't want to change that base shape. And you can see it's just simple painting. And turn it so you can see it. And what I think we should do now, because this is such a large piece, is we'll take a little break, and I will finish. Actually, you know what? I don't need to do that because I have the other tarp. So you got the general idea here, gang. I'm not going to paint this entire tarp. And actually, it worked out really, really well for me. And I will explain this really better in the next episode. But as for right now, let us go to this other tarp and fix this other tarp. Then you'll have to watch the previous show to get to this show. So we'll be right back. Okay, gang, now let's assume that we have painted the entire piece. We've taken this piece here, we painted it entirely. Now we got to this point, but this point here is something that I did in the next episode, and it was a wet blending technique. But what happens a lot of times on this wet blending technique is when the piece dries, it kind of lightens up. So we need to go in and do something else to this, and let's do that now. Again, I'm going to take my oil paint, put it out my palette, just a little bit. Get an appropriate brush. Go into my low odor thinner. Oh, I put that cap on tight. And do the same thing. Now, we might as well do it again, Dave. We might as well come down to the palette and show the cut. Get a shot so it's like all three are in. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we can watch this whole process. You don't have to get close to all this stuff. Now, I go to the outside and I just grab just a little bit. And that is where I want to be, right there. That's very good. Now, I'm looking at the piece and I see there are a few light spots. But because I am in a dark color here, I want to take this and drop it into my low points. And let's do that. Now this may change the base color a little bit. And you can see that it actually is. When this dries, it may not be the case. And we got a spot right there. Now remember, when you do this, you want to take this and you want to blend it with your surrounding areas. So don't just hit that one spot. And there's another one over here. And here's another one. So let's just take this and let's assume that we've gone through the entire piece and done all this stuff. I've got another spot right here that I should really hit. Then I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and show you how to fix everything else here. Okay, that's really good. That is really good. Okay, let me take a break. We're going to take a little short break, like we're going to a commercial. I'm going to take a little break because I need to find a color. I can't find it right now, so be right back. Okay, now I've found the appropriate color, which is a field drab. The FS number on this is 3118. Military people will know what I mean by the FS number, the federal standard number on this. So again, what do we do? What do I do, Dave?
Stir.
Stir your paint.
Stir it up.
Stir that paint. Hey, here's a chant. Once again, it's a useless rant. Stir your paint. Stir your paint. Wow, this is thick. Thick. Very good. And this has got to be an old bottle, Dave, because there's no paint bottle maintenance on this. Matter of fact, this is a good teaching tool. This is an excellent teaching tool. Come down and get the rim of this bottle. See it? You got it? Mm-hmm. See it, students? See this? See it? It's all jazzed up from not doing proper paint bottle maintenance. This is probably prior to the days of doing this. I haven't used this color in a while. So, there is a good example of why we do that paint bottle maintenance. And you can actually see, because of it, I got all of my fingers and everything. Now, the reason I'm using a faded drab is because it's very complementary to the color that is on this tarp. Once again, that guy, the guy with the pickup truck, Dave's getting in the truck right now.
He's on his way.
He's on his way. Bill, you're going to die. That's all right, folks. I want you to see, like I say all the time, I want you to see the entire process of this. And I want you to realize that, you don't just go in and 3 seconds stir your paint. You want this nice and liquidy and to the manufacturer's chemical balance out onto the palette. Do your maintenance, even though this bottle I think is way beyond maintenance. Dave, you got to get a shot of this.
I got it.
You got to get a shot of this. Look at this now. Look at the top of the bottle now. Is that not a million times better? Do you see why you do this? Mm-hmm. Do you see why I tell people, do your paint bottle maintenance? Got a nice clean cap. So obviously this paint has never been shaken. I was recently in front of a large group of people, and I was talking about stirring paint. And one of my buddies said to me, well, my BBs are working just fine. Well, no, they're not. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and do the dry brush. You've seen me do this many times. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our base paint is complementary with our color here. So let us try that first. Pick up some paint. Dry brush it out. That's pretty good. And let's go on top of this and see what happens. Now again, because we're dry brushing, it's very light. Need a little bit more. Remember to work in the same spot as you dry brush. You are working one spot and bringing it out and releasing the paint elsewhere. Oh, that's very complimentary, very complimentary. We're only hitting the high points. Oh, that's very nice. I'm liking that a lot. Oh, look at that. Very beautiful, very nice. Is that filming or is that too dark?
You're doing it.
I'm doing it?
I can see it.
Okay. And you can see how the dry brush is really enhancing the high folds and leaving the darkness in the depths. But we are going to want to enhance this color a little bit more. And I'll just work this one area for you, because I can always finish this off camera. I think I will actually keep this piece. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little lighter color, but other than adding a stark yellow, we want to add a little bit like of this yellowish green. This is a zinc chromate. Now, this is one of those colors that they use on the interior of aircraft for anti-corrosion, but for our purposes, we're going to use this now to enhance the faded drab. And again, I shouldn't even ask. What do we do?
Stir.
Stir the paint. Stir the paint, stir the paint. This is getting thick, Dave. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is getting thick. I don't use this color a lot. That's pretty good. Out onto the palette, separate spot, so we can control our blend. What did I do wrong?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So much better. And like I said, I never did this before this show, but I figured I would show people the correct way to do things. Remember, as I tell you a million times in this show, do as I show you, not as I actually do, because I will cut corners sometimes. Now, remember how we do this. We pick a little of the faded drab up, we pick a little of this zinc up, and we go to where we worked our original source, but we stay only on one side. And that is so we can see the contrast between what we're enhancing and our base color. That makes sense, right, folks? That makes sense, students, doesn't it? Yes, of course it does. And you can see I'm not enhancing that much, but it is a little drastic, but I'm not enhancing that much. Plus, I want to go to the piece and see what this enhancement has accomplished. And again, I'll work the same spot. And, oh yeah. This, I think, students, this is going to come down to a point where you're just going to have to experiment with your mixtures. I can't give you a ratio and say, listen, add 5 parts of zinc to 3 parts of faded. I don't know that mixture. That's way too light. And I need a little more of the faded drab. And folks, I know this is kind of getting, hoo-hoo. But listen, this is how it's done. This is truly how you do these things. Other people say, oh, go right in the bottle. Well, remember what I told you about the bottle. The brush could be contaminated. You put it in the bottle, everything goes down the hill. Close up your bottle so you don't tip anything over, make a mess. Grab a little of that, and I'm going to go right into the spot that got a little too light. You can see how much lighter that is. You can see that. That's way too light. Don't clean the brush. And now the relationship between that and that is very good. And you will see this as we go over to the piece. Just going to brush it. Oh, Dave, this is real good. This couldn't be any better. Now, we'll do the stock area. Watch the stock area grow, folks. Is that not nice? Is that not nice? Looks like an old sun-bleached tarp. You know, sometimes if you notice, things, especially in train yards, have a tendency to get covered and then kind of not used. So this would be excellent for train folks. It'd be good for military folks too. Figure guys, figure painters, gamers. I'm going to stop picking on the gamers now, Dave. Train guys are going to get a break. Give the train I'll give the train guys a break here for a while.
I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
Train guys. You guys do have some quick techniques that, boy, I just... what is going on? But you have your own little, like Bob Ross says, it's your little world. Do what you want. But you can see how this is really starting to really help this be a very dimensional piece. You know, a good way to think about this is a good example. Good way to think about this is think about this just the same way that you see box art on things. An artist, when he's painting on a flat surface, uses light and dark to create shape and depth. Well, when you already are on a piece that has shape and depth, to enhance that only furthers that flat art technique. So that's why I say, you know, you watch Bob Ross. I mean, he's, granted the man is passed and everything, but his shows are still on. And I'll tell you, I learn an awful lot from that guy. Mostly what I like to watch Bob Ross for is the way he manipulates colors on the palette. You know, take a little phthalo blue with a little blah, 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 with a little... And it's just get you to know how to work paint. But that's something that you are going to, as an individual, have to learn, you know. How do I know that I put this zinc into this color? Well, if you stay within the family of colors, you will learn this. Color chart is a good thing to have. You can find that in an art supply. But you can truly see how this is really helping this tarp out. And I guess I'll just get this on here quick because I do want to move on. And I will stop giving the gamers a hard time and go back to giving the railroad guys a hard time. Why does he have to give anybody a hard time at all? It's the nature of me. Because honestly, sometimes you railroad guys, boy, you really do some stuff. Like your white grouted buildings. Now, on a corner like this, it's good to go and add a little bit more light to it just to create, it kind of like outlines the piece. And you notice I'm just hitting the outside edge. That's all I'm doing. I'm just going around that square. And then I will carry it across. But you notice I'm just barely touching this. Barely touching this. With that highlight color. And I can hit that all over the place. And you see it's kind of random. I'm going very fast. I'm moving very fast. Oh, geez, that looks good. If I do say so myself, that looks good. And I've got a little... I am a person that's susceptible to leaf pollen this time of year. Not leaf pollen, the leaf mold when the leaves start to rot. So I get a little thick in the throat here and stuff. Oh, did that make a... We'll hear that. Sorry, gang. And my white glue finally gave it up on the top of this. So I think we're going to call it a day on this, and now let us go back and let's get into something and do something to help out the railroad guys enhance their rail cars. So I'll see you in 2, 1, 0. I'll see you in honest to God now. All right, let's help out the train folks now with enhancing some of their cars. Now you can see I'm taking this right out of a box, brand spanking new. These are all pre-painted cars. And we're going to do a Heinz car. So I don't want you to get in a pickle over this car, but we are going to do a Heinz car. What a groaner. Okay, we're going to take this out. This is the way they come, right out of the box. And there are ways to enhance these cars to make them look not so much better than what the manufacturer has given you, but a more realistic appearance, especially for you folks that are painting everything. If you're following my series and you're looking at the groundwork, you are going to realize that you need to paint everything to get that one visual hue which creates scale effect. If everything is painted, it needs to have that one visual hue. And if we're painting in acrylics and we're painting in enamels and we're painting in oils, that's 3 different mediums. They all dry with different sheens. So therefore, it is essential to get one sheen over everything, which can be accomplished with a dull coat. But if you're going to enhance your cars, this is how you go about doing this. Now again, we are going to go to our old trusty pal, our oil paint, and I'm going to put it in a in a cup. No, you know what? Let's. Oh, this is good. Huh. Must have had something around, Dave. It must have had something around. I don't know what that could have possibly been. But let us follow down. We go right down onto our palette. Put out our oil. We only need a little tiny bit. Close it up. No paint bottle maintenance on this oil. But you know, honestly, folks, it wouldn't be a bad idea to rub the threads of this. Do it. It would not be a bad idea to take and rub the threads of this. Listen, you want longevity in all your product. You know, all this stuff is costly. And even though you say, well, that's only $2 and $3, well, yeah, when you start buying 15 of these and 5 of those and 6 of these, and it all adds up. So you know, everything we do in the show is done on the inexpensive. So let us keep on going with that. I've got a good dry brush here. Very good dry brush. And let us go. This is going to be an enhancement. I'm getting all confused, Dave. That's all right.
Can I see the tip of that dry brush again, please?
Yes. This one here?
Yeah.
This one here will be our washing brush. This one here will be our dry brush. For the fact of, let's go down and show them the heads, Dave. Go right down onto the surface and we'll show them the heads. See how that's all, see how that bends? There is no resistance to this. As we go to this one, see it? Great dry brush because it has a lot of resistance. So, let us take this and let's get to a point where we can start to enhance this car. Now, I'm going to have to lay this car flat because of the way I'm going to do this. Open up the low odor thinner. And you might as well, let's group these together, Dave, so we can get a real tight shot so everybody can see all 3 things happening at the exact same time.
Okay, you got it.
Got it? Okay. Take this out, and again, I only go to the edge of the oil. And you can see how dark that pool is becoming. So I would add a little more thinner, lighten up that pool. Now, it's always better to be lighter than it is to be darker. You can always darken, but once it's on the piece, it's a little difficult more to lighten on the piece than it is. But it's not impossible, especially with an oil paint. And we go in, honestly, we just we touch. Now that's way too light. I cut it way too much. So I go back to my palette, grab a little more. Wow, that went real dark, but I'm going to try it because like I said, I can always lighten the darkness. And that's pretty good. And you can see the side of that car. I'll hold it up, but I have to lay this car flat. Because you can see what happens? I don't know if you can see this, but it starts to run to the bottom. And I don't want that on this particular car. I want this to be evenly spaced. That's why I'm laying it flat. I'm going to tilt it back to get the oil even. Here's another little trick. You can go down and do this. Yeah, that worked. That worked. Grab it. Go to the side. Oh, look at that. Ooh, is that nice? Now, can you see how much better that looks than right there? It's just obvious. It's obvious, train guys. Going right on top of all the printed material. Wow, that's awful dark. And might as well get right down here in these numbers. I mean on these, what does it say? Heinz Company. Pickled tank car. It's a pickle tank car. Son, I want you to take that pickle tank and drive into battle. Don't worry, the pickle will protect you. Sure it will. Okay, General. Thank you, Major Malfunction, for that. We topped right on top of those. Not bad, not bad, not bad. And of course, we would continue throughout the entire car doing this. Now you notice also, when I put this on, note the technique that the brush does. It is not this. It is, watch. See me touch? That is the trick. Well, not a trick, but that's the actual technique. And you can see I'm taking the pickle tank car lettering and putting a little bit on top of it. It's white lettering. You know, obviously, you guys that go down and loiter in train yards, you see what happens to all the writing on the cars. And now because we're going in around a ladder area, let's give that quite a bit of darkness in there. Yeah, that worked. That worked real nice. So that's what we have. And really, truly, this is it. This is it, guys. And when you get done with this, put that aside, you end up with this. Now, once that is dry, you're here, and now you need to take this and enhance this as well. So we'll do that, and we'll do that next. Okay, folks, now that the wash has dried, we want to go in and we want to enhance the side of the car. And even though that was that Heinz car is going to take a while to dry for the fact that it is done in an oil paint. So now let's come over here. Now you can see on the palette, I've already, what, Dave?
Stirred the paint.
Stirred the paint, put it out in the palette. So now let us pick some up and do the same thing. The traditional dry brush. I have a piece of schmeg under there. The traditional dry brush. And I know I need to add a little yellow to this. Now I'm not adding that green yellow. I am adding a flat yellow. And I want to go and see that contrast. That looks pretty good. Now you know what I could do to check the contrast as well? I could come up and I could put the piece of paper next to the car as well. And that gives me a good idea of where I'm going to be enhancing. Now it's better to have a lesser enhancement at first that you can lighten than to rather have an enhancement that is extremely light. You can still cover up that extremely light enhancement, but because it's extremely light, when you put your other shades on top of it, the reflectance through it, because the paint is so thin, may affect that toning. So you don't, you're better to go dark to light than to go way too light and have to darken something up. All right, I probably talked so long I probably lost all my dry brush, which I did. So let's do it again. You can see I'm just working out of two separate pools. I don't combine them. That looks pretty good. I dry brush it out to see what kind of control I'm going to have on my piece, which looks pretty good. And now, because these ribs run this way, I want to dry brush this way. I got to put this down so I stabilize it. And I got to kind of lean over so I can see what I'm doing. But see that? See that, students? See that? See that grow? That could actually be a little bit lighter. And I go right into the same area that I was. Know what I'm doing. By dry brushing that out, that's much better. That's the enhancement that I want to see. Now there are rivet lines that run down the side of the car. So I hit those. And notice how lightly I go down there. I mean, really, really light around the corners. And you can go onto the piece a little bit because I see I've got quite a run here. And I want to lessen that effect. Now notice, even though I'm going up, I'm still in that downward direction. That doesn't make any sense. I'm going up, but I'm still with the flow, as opposed to going this way. Oh, and that's very good. That's very, very good. Now you see, you have to keep loading the brush. This takes time. Again, don't be concerned about replicating the same dry brush color throughout the entire piece. That is not necessary. As long as you're in the ballpark and you're a little tone up or you're a little tone down, doesn't make any difference. That doesn't make any difference. Everything's going to tone a little bit differently. So don't get to that mindset of, well, if I'm mixing paints, I'll never replicate the same color. That's right, you're not going to replicate. Rewind. You're not going to replicate the same color. That's not a problem. This is not a problem. As long as you're within the ballpark, you're toning. That's what you're looking for. You're toning. I have friends that get so wiggy about, oh, if I mix my paint, I'll never have the same color and all. You got to change that way of thinking. And I say this to my students all the time, you just change that way of thinking. Now this one's a little bit darker. When I a little bit lighter. And I'm going right on to the next rib. Wow, that's very light. See that? That's very light. That's almost like a top color. So I use that sparingly. And now notice, I go back to certain areas, and I'm not doing the whole piece. I'm just doing little short piece segments of it. I can even run it down in these other areas. And you see what I did with my finger there? Now, if this was not on top of the oil thinner residue from it drying, I could not do that with my finger. You couldn't do it with an acrylic. Acrylic doesn't work that way. But you can see how much better this car starts to look. Especially these rivets on the side of these. These must be strengthening formers or something between the thin skin of the car or something, huh? Do you have any idea what railroad cars are made of?
I have no idea. Aluminum?
No. I have not a clue. That's something I'm going to have to go do. I'll have to go loiter in a train yard and bang on the train sides of the train. I'm sure at one of the contests too, one of the shows, the train shows, I'm sure I'll have some angry train guy who I've given a hard time to go, "Ah, ah, ah, ah. They're made out of this. They're made out of unobtainium." And again, I want to show you the whole process, because I don't want you folks to think that this is a 5-second deal. Pay attention to what you're doing. Do not go willy-nilly into the dry brush realm. Now I go across because I've got 2 raised lines, and again, going across. And this brush is getting to a point where it's starting to really start to work for me. It's picked up some of that residue from the low odor thinner, and it's starting to increase the longevity of my dry brush paint on my brush. This is going to be a really good area. Watch this area grow. Watch this area grow. And you can see I can be a lot more aggressive with the brush here. Now, why am I going up and down? Because these rubs run this way. They don't run this way. Let's load this up. I got to put the car down. I got to get some paint here. I'm so used to being quiet when I model that sometimes when I do this, you can hear the crickets. But that's okay. Back to the car, David.
Mm-hmm.
Now look at that. Look at that. This just absolutely could not be better. Oh boy, that rivet pattern just... That rivet pattern came up as good as that time when I did your the graphite on that engine nacelle of your shuttle. Boy, look at this. This is beautiful. This dry brush is right about where I want it to be right now. Now you can see I'm getting a lot more aggressive with my brushing technique, but that's because the paint on the brush is getting less and less and less and less. And because it's getting less and less and less, you can be very aggressive with your dry brush. So what, you go over it 30 times, now you're going over it 70 times instead of 30 times. What difference does that make? What, do you got a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff that you're going to be late for? I mean, come on, you know? As a matter of fact, some guy goes, "Whoa, I do have a meeting with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I gotta go. Let me get some more paint. I need a little more rust." We might as well stay with this instead of putting this out, because I need a little more rust. And because of the way I took that out of there, no need for the PBM, the paint bottle maintenance. I'm going to go to the same spot. You notice I keep going to the same spot. I'm not over here, I'm not over there, I'm not over there, I'm not over there. I'm in the same spot, because I can regenerate the paint that's underneath this and keep my tones so I know where I am. So at least I'm ballparking tone. Now, of course, I'm out on wherever to see what I've got when I go back to the car, and I'll come back over to the car, and let's finish this end. Now, we have a good rivet pattern that runs down here. Let's see if we can get this to pop. Well, let's see if we can. Let's get this to pop. See that? And I've got a lot around in the ladder area, which I don't like. So even though I'm going to take and mess up the black ladder, I want to lessen that shadow in there. And this is why I say, see, you can go a little bit dark and come up and you can hide it a little bit, but the reflectance through the dry brush is still going to remain very dark in there, and then I'll just have to re-black the ladder. And actually, I'm going to show you something. Let me finish this car, and then I'll show you something. Remind me, Dave, if I forget to do anything with this ladder, say, "Hey, Bill, you didn't do the ladder."
minutes. 9 minutes.
9 minutes? Okay. Now, I'm going to take this rest of this car now, and now I'm going to get real light because I want a highlight enhancement, so I'm going to use a lot more yellow than I am the rust. I don't want pure yellow, and you can see I'm working that one spot and picking up a lot of yellow, and you can see how it's pulling and starting to drag. That's kind of good when you do this type of dry brushing. This is highlighting dry brushing. And now let's do this, and watch how fastly I do this too, folks. This is something you just do rather quickly and light. Touch this brush. I could almost be holding this brush like this and doing it. Okay, now watch. See that enhancement come up? And you notice I'm being very random about where I'm doing it. But see that highlight come up? These rivets are going to be beautiful. Very, very light in the rivets. Very light. And now I'll hit the whole side of this car because I have hardly any paint on this at all. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go in and I'm going to lighten it even again. I'm almost pure yellow, almost pure yellow. And again, this is going to be light. This is going to be really light. I want to start with these rivets. Really get those rivets to jump out. And they do. And again, see how much better the side of this car is looking? Can you imagine this on a layout that everything is painted? All your buildings are painted, all your people are, you know. You don't really have to enhance HO people, I don't think. I think they come pretty good. You could dull coat them, which is a flat, clear coat. Here's some rivets at the bottom of the car. Look at that rivet pattern. Look at that rivet pattern pop out. Here's a little sticky out piece. Let's get this really highlighted. Like my technical terms? Mm-hmm. The sticky out piece on the railroad car. Somebody's going to come to me at a train thing and go, that's called a Riesenhauser. And that is pretty good. Now I've messed up the ladders and I'm going to show you a trick. You're going to be like, what's he doing now? First thing I want to do though, folks, is clean the brush. Find my window. Boy, this bottle's getting old. Do you know I've had this bottle, Dave, since I was about maybe 18? Yep, I bought this at the Dinosaur Outlet back in the days before Neanderthal Man. Okay, so we got 5 minutes. 5 minutes, folks, 5 minutes. I'll show you the ladders, then I will say goodbye. I'll show you this little trick. You too can do this at home. Close up your bottle. And I've got to fix the ladders. Magic marker, gang. Magic marker. And I've got to lay this flat and be very careful. You don't need paint for everything. This is a permanent marker. Look at the ladder. See it? Let's go to the other side. Hit this. This, of course, would be better with a much finer tipped, which I thought I had right behind me, but you can see the control. And then just onto that arm. I've got a sharper point here. And right down that arm. If you go off a little bit, that's not a problem. We could clean that up with a little thinner on a brush. right to the edge of that. And it goes away. And that is it. That is it. I shall clean my brush. And once again, with my infamous world-renowned cameraman, the infamous Clam Bake Cape Cod Dave. Dave, thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You are no problem at all, my bud. And again, I hope you have learned something here on simple groundwork and diorama techniques. We are into the Model Builders series. So thank you. Try these techniques at home. I hope they work for you. I know they will. You take care, folks. Bye-bye. We'll see you again.